Hello everyone, welcome. Today we are going to be doing some maintenance items. I have some raised beds that are down by one of my growing fields and they really need to be weeded, as well as some of the lilies and dahlias and things from last year. All the dead stalks are still there. I didn't get around to getting those taken down. And then I have some panicle hydrangeas right next to them. I have about 3 rows of them. We're going to be working on pruning those. And then my chickens, I'm going to move them into a different section in their run. So hang out with me today and let's get some stuff done. All right, here we are. We are down at the raised beds, and I'm starting in the first bed where I have some of my daffodils, and I had tulips growing for cut flowers. I'll put a few pictures up on the screen of the types of daffodils that I have growing in here. One of them's called a bridal veil, the other one's called a Tahiti, and the white one off the top of my head, I don't remember what it's called. But this weed that I'm currently digging out is called bittercress. I'll try to put a more up close picture up on the screen for you as well. But if you're not familiar with this weed, it is one where once it goes to seed and you touch it, the seed pods explode and seeds go everywhere. So I'm constantly fighting a battle with these. And as you can see, I'm having to work in and around everything because they go everywhere. So I'm just going to continue to weed here for a little bit and get these out of here. It's nice because the soil is fairly soft and dry, so they're coming out pretty easy. And here coming up, this one I'm going to put on slow mode for you so you can see just how easy the dirt just shakes off of the roots. I don't like to waste any, so I love it when all the dirt just comes right off. Okay, we've got this first bed done. It didn't have a ton of weeds, but what we did have in there, we got those cleared out, so this bed is ready to be amended. Now I'm going to be working on these next 3 beds. This one has the lilies in it and a few tulip bulbs that the little corms that came off the bottom decided to sprout, and I do have a few daffodils down there, but you can see all the weeds in there. And then we'll take a walk. Got to clip off all these dead lily stalks. This bed has some dahlias in it. I was contemplating taking the dahlias out because I don't use them too much in the cut flower bouquets. They're beautiful, but the only reason that I don't is most of the flowers in my bouquets last about 2 weeks, and the dahlias do not. They last about 4 or 5 days, and so some of the customers were just curious why they had flowers in their bouquet that didn't last as long. And then of course once one dies and you take it out, it kind of changes the whole aesthetic of the bouquet. So I just decided to omit them. I have plenty of other flowers, and there's just a few weeds in this one. And then coming over here to the last bed, this is leftover anemones, and they're beautiful. They've probably been in this bed for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years. And I need to take them out, thin them, redo them, buy some new ones. I leave them in the ground because in the raised beds they stay warmer, and even though we have some temperatures occasionally that get down into the 20s, they have still made it through. I did lose some of my ranunculus, so I do need to go through and redo those, but let me see if I can get a close-up on some of these anemones for you. They're white with little black centers, little buds. They're really pretty, and I'm not sure if any of them survived. I do have some that are lavender, some that are kind of a pinkish color, but mostly the white tended to dominate when it came to living through the winter. So again, I do have a couple of dahlia stalks in here that I need to get cleaned out, and we'll get to working on that, and I'll just put you on a time lapse. So it looks like I accomplished a lot in a very short amount of time. I only wish it went that fast. Okay, we're officially done with all 4 beds. didn't take as long as I thought, but again, that's because the soil is so soft and fluffy, the weeds come out pretty easy. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this bucket of weeds and give them to the chickens. So I don't think I've ever shown you my chicken setup before, but down here is their coop. They have a little covered area where their food is and where they go in and out. So as you can see, we put hoops, kind of like a greenhouse with a purlin down the center. The hoops are made of plastic pipe, but we had to do this because we have incredible vulture pressure around here. In fact, one day, this first hoop right here, I looked out the window and there was a red-tailed hawk sitting on it, staring down at the chickens. Although I would really love for them to be able to free range, they have to be protected. So what I do is the garden, which is just on the other side of the chicken coop. All winter long, I have cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower plants in there specifically just for the purpose of being able to give them fresh greens throughout the winter. But now that spring is coming, let's get them a bucket of the weeds that we just pulled. And I have this kind of sectioned off into two areas, so we are going to move them into this first section. So this probably isn't going to be the easiest to see, but I am going to set you down and see if I can just show you what I'm doing. The chickens are already curious about the weeds. They love their greens. So let me see if I can get you set up. Oh, goodness, girls. Let's go get your greens. Now you'll get to watch me try to wrangle chickens. This should be interesting. Keep going. Keep going, girls. You're all right, Amari. Keep going. No, Amari. This way, baby girl. This way, baby girl. There you go. Okay, now I'm going to close them off to this old area. Alright, so next today we're going to be pruning my Panicle Hydrangeas. I do have one in here that is not, and I will show you the difference. But there isn't much you can do wrong with pruning Panicle Hydrangeas. They're pretty forgiving because they bloom on new wood. And they suggest with this variety that you cut back to about 1/3 of the plant's current height. Try to make sure that you have at least 3 buds showing per stem, and try to form like a deer antler type shape, so giving it a little bit of air inside. I'm going to go through, I'm going to look for any dead wood, any branches that are crossing and rubbing on each other, and I'm going to get those removed, as well as deadheading all of the tops off of these. And then let me show you what the one hydrangea I have in here that is not a panicle. I do not remember what the variety is on this one, but it's a beautiful purple. And see how it already has buds coming out on it? This one blooms on old wood, so it said its buds last year. So you have to be very careful on this one not to cut any of that stuff off, because then you won't have any blooms. So I'll basically just trim the tops off, get the old spent blooms off of this one, and then when we're done, we will give them a bit of fertilizer. I'm all finished pruning up the hydrangeas. It looks kind of brutal, but you could see how big and fluffy and full of blooms they were before I started, and I whacked them back like this last year. They're actually a little too close together. I planted these for cut flowers, so at some point I'm going to remove them and put them in a new location, give them a little more room, but that won't be this year. And then this is the hydrangea that blooms on old wood, so you can kind of see the difference in how much is still left on the plant. And I just cut out some of the dead wood. Looks like there's still a piece hanging out in here. And now I have the task of getting all of these cut off stems. I have several piles around here. Loaded into the little Kubota and down to the burn pile. So we are all done pruning and getting the beds ready. I'm gonna start planting some flowers in there. I haven't decided what else I'm gonna put in those beds, but the hydrangeas are gonna start bushing out here before long and looking real beautiful. So if you would like to keep track of all the progress we're making on the property, we're doing lots of things this year. We would love to have you be part of the family and subscribe. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time.